Hi and welcome to what seems to be the best looking compact hatchback, which you'll find in showrooms in 2016. This is 4th generation Renault Megane. It's slightly bigger than Volkswagen Golf or Toyota Auris, but slightly smaller than Opel Astra. It's about the size of Ford Focus. Did I mention that this is probably the best looking new compact hatchback in 2016? Have a look at these lines, the lights in the front and in the back. The body looks massive, makes you think of how solid and safe the Megane must be, which finds reflection in Euro NCAP test results. The Megane scored 5 stars, so it's as safe as it gets. Renault has a long tradition of making safest cars, with 2nd generation Megane being the first compact car to score 5 stars on Euro NCAP tests. But since then, car manufacturers started paying more attention to safety, and today it's hard to find a compact car which scores less than perfect, unless it's the 3rd generation facelifted Megane. An important factor of safety scores these days are driver aids. This is what the previous Megane lacked. In the 4th generation we have things like road sign recognition, lane keeping assist or autonomous emergency braking, albeit all these systems are either optional or available only on higher spec models. But this is the Bose Edition, which will massage my back while I listen to music. Bose Edition comes with a 7-inch display as standard, but this car has the upgraded 8.7-inch infotainment screen. I'm of the opinion if you go for a touchscreen, go for the biggest there is. It's easier to find stuff on it. Is R-Link 2 a good system? After a few days of using it, I'm starting to understand the logic behind it. I like the sat-nav, but for some functions, I'd rather have traditional buttons and knobs. Still, it's way better than Ford's Sync 2. Before we set off, Renault deserves words of praise, because unlike in the cat jar, which would rattle and squeak just by looking at it, the Megane interior sounds solid. I hope Renault will continue with this trend, including things like this sound-absorbing cloth at the bottom of the door bins, or here under the armrest. That's what it should be like. Come on, Renault, let's go. Can you hear the suspension working? Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Now, when it comes to the feeling of how solid and safe this car is, looking at it from the outside, the notion continues inside. I feel as if the Megane was bigger than it really is. And, you know, it's neither an advantage nor a disadvantage, just an observation I made. What is a disadvantage is the rather large C-pillar and surprisingly big headrests in the 2nd row. The French go all the way and they put big headrests in the back instead of the smaller ones that sort of fold into the seat when nobody's using them. And yeah, this obstructs visibility, and there's also another problem which you will see soon. Under the bonnet of this example is the most powerful diesel 1.6 130 horsepower. It propels the Megane from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 10 seconds, which puts it somewhere in the middle of the range. The Megane has the highest torque. Megane and the 1.6 Astra diesel 136 horsepower, they have the highest torque, 320 newton meters of torque. However, to make use of all that torque, you still have to change gears a bit. Once you do, it goes. The thing is that while you're changing gears, it's kind of like training on an orbit track. The throw is rather long. Power steering is electrically assisted. You can change the level of power assistance with the driving modes button. And the difference is that the steering can be either light and give you no feedback, or neutral and give you no feedback, or heavy and give you no feedback. And don't give me the speech about how a diesel Megane is not a hot hatch. Well, the 120 horsepower diesel Focus is also not a hot hatch, but I'd love to drive it every day. I also can't hear any noticeable difference between the engine sound, which is artificially generated from the speakers. Okay, let me put it in sport now. Do you hear any difference? Now it's neutral. No, I can't hear any difference either. It's kind of like an air freshener in the toilet. You can mask the smell, but nobody's going to believe you that you're growing lilies in there. You know what I'm saying? Under the bonnet of this car is a diesel engine, and Renault will not make it sound like a Ferrari. Speaking of sounds, starting from about 120 kilometers per hour, there is some noticeable wind noise around the A-pillar. And then there is the thumping noise from the suspension, which I mentioned at the start. It's not as if there is no damping, because the damping is good. It's as if the damping sound is amplified through the body of the car. I think that's the best way I can explain it. And it's noticeable regardless of the speed. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the tires. This one is on Nokians. Let's go back to the driving modes. You can change them with a button next to the gear lever, and then on the infotainment display you can go between neutral, comfort, sport, eco and personal. And now this is where the fun begins, because for every mode you can change. Okay, let me just go into the menu and tell you what you can change. You can change the steering input, the performance, let's say, thermal comfort, display style. There are 4 display styles. There are different ambient lighting colors. Then there is the engine sound, which we established there isn't really any difference. And then there is also the massage function. Oh yes. So you can have an aggressive massage when driving in sports mode, and you can have a relaxing, soothing massage when you're driving in comfort. Yeah, I appreciate the effort, and I still think it's a bit over the top. I also appreciate Megane's fuel economy. Around the city, this car does about 6 liters, and in combined cycle around 5 liters per 100 kilometers. Renault claims around 5 and 4 respectively. On longer journeys, the Megane should be efficient, and the whistling noise around the A-pillars and the massage will put me to sleep. No, wait. Unfortunately, there are some other issues. I don't mind configuring the whole infotainment mode stuff, because once I configure it, it's going to be there, and hopefully it's not going to disappear when the battery dies or when some guy in the service presses the button. I also don't mind whatever this is. Being a French car, it's probably a place to store your lighter or a lipstick, or both. But there are issues. Let's start with the hands-free functionality. There is a reason why it's called keyless, not hands-free in other cars. It's enough to walk to the other side of the car and the Megane will lock itself. I find it somewhat annoying in the morning when I put my stuff into the boot and then go open the gate, and the car locks itself. And speaking of the boot, it must have been designed in the south of France, where it rains only twice a year. And as a result, nobody noticed that when you open the wet tailgate, water will drip inside the boot. And the sill is so wide, you have to lean hard not to get your clothes dirty brushing against the bumper. On the plus side, there are shopping bag hooks, but the boot has 384 liters only on paper. In the Bose Edition, there is a subwoofer under the boot floor, so the space is unavailable. I measured the boot and there is about 330 liters above the floor. And there is no way to raise the floor, so no flat loading surface when you fold the back seats. And remember I mentioned large headrests in the back are an issue? Now you see why. And in the back there is very little legroom, even with the seat set to my driving position, 175 centimeters if you don't know yet. And if the driver were taller, forget an adult could be comfortable back here. And there's also a big tunnel running through the middle. Oh, and did I mention the price? The Megane starts at a reasonable 17,000 euro, but this Bose Edition with extras costs over 30 grand. Next to Opel Astra and Volkswagen Golf, big display and good looks may just not be enough. And which generation Megane do you like best? Drop me a comment below, share, rate and subscribe. New episodes every Friday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you as soon as you click one of my other reviews.